Hello and welcome. I'm Dame Offensive. We're going to be reviewing a Civ leader's abilities to achieve the various victory conditions. Today's leader is Lady Triệu of Vietnam. Her ability is Drive Out the Aggressors, which gives bonus combat strength and movement in rainforest, marsh, and woods, and that doubles in Vietnamese territory. The Vietnamese ability is 9 Dragon River Delta, and districts can only be placed in rainforest, marsh, or woods, and then buildings on those features grant extra yields of culture, science, or production. Also, woods can be planted with medieval fairs instead of conservation. Vietnam comes with a unique unit, the Voi Chan, which replaces the crossbowman, is stronger, and has more movement, but it is a bit more expensive. Vietnam's unique district is the Tan. It has half production cost. It grants +2 culture for every adjacent district. It provides tourism from the adjacency bonus after flight. It doesn't count as a specialty district, so it's not limited by population. Let's take a look at how the ratings will work. I've assigned numerical values based on how I think a leader can satisfy the conditions I'm listing. 10 is perfect, 1 is very, very bad, and then 5 or 6 is about average. The first rating up is a science victory. Now for science, you obviously need a lot of science generation. And here I'm going to give Lady Triệu an 8. And I think it's an 8 because she does get the bonuses for rainforest, and she's going to spawn near rainforest. She has a good chance to get some decent science going, but it's not perfect because she is going to be limited in placement a little bit. For production generation, I've given her a 9. A lot of that production is coming from the encampment district, which she can build in basically every city, and the fact that she can plant woods earlier. She doesn't get any special bonuses to harbors or industrial zones though, so I'm just going to keep it at a 9. In terms of additional yields, she's going to get a 10 because her encampment, first of all, doesn't take a population. She can have more encampments to be able to store more aluminum down the line. And because it generates culture and potentially a lot of it, it means that she doesn't have to waste population on theater squares anywhere. So she's going to be able to focus on science, on production, and on money. When we average those out, we're going to get a science victory capacity score of 9. On to culture victory. First up for a culture victory is culture generation. Because of her unique encampment, that's going to be a 10. She is really well equipped to generate culture, especially because the woods, which she can plant early, grant buildings built in woods extra culture. Next up is faith generation. She's going to get a 9 there. She doesn't really have any special bonuses to faith generation, but because she can get those woods out very early, she can plan to plant woods early and get more holy site adjacencies. And because the woods are kept when you plant a district on them, that adjacency can be kept. Last up is additional abilities towards a culture victory. Here I'm going to give her a 7. I think that her encampment's tourism is pretty good, but it doesn't compare to, say, the national park. It's still a fraction of what the national park can give, and because of the placement of her districts, it might be a bit challenging for her to build districts in a way that avoids national park space. Then again, she can plant forests early, which means she'll be able to prepare for the natural parks earlier. And when you average those out, you get a culture victory capacity of 8.6. On to religious victory. The first part of religious victory is religion establishment. I'm going to put her above average at 7 here. Lady True doesn't really have any special bonuses towards establishing religion, but because she's likely to spawn near forest and she can generate quite a bit of culture, it should help in pushing some of the key civics and grant a little bit more faith generation. Next up is faith generation. I'm gonna give her a 7. Again, she doesn't really have any special bonuses towards faith generation, but she can get those trees, as we talked about in the culture victory. In terms of additional abilities, I'm gonna give her an 8. This is a little bit of speculation until we can actually play, but the movement bonuses in rainforest, marsh, and woods means that her religious units might be very, very mobile, which means that they can spread farther and faster to other civilizations. And if they also gain the combat strength in rainforest, marsh, and woods, then they're going to be very, very powerful. So average that all out, and her total religious victory capacity is 7.3. Now we're going to look at diplomatic victory. The first part of diplomatic victory is diplomatic favor generation. I'm going to give her a 5. Lady True doesn't have any special bonuses towards diplomatic favor generation, so she's really quite average in this respect. In terms of culture generation, we talked about that earlier. She really gets a 10 here. She's really good at generating culture. In terms of additional abilities, I'm going to give her a 7. If you're specifically aiming for a diplomatic victory, one of the things you have to be aware of is losing diplomatic favor, which can happen if you get your industrial zones up and start burning fossil fuels. But with Lady True's ability to plant forests earlier, it means that she can rely a little bit more on the tiles to grant extra production, so you don't have to spam out coal power plants and burn through your diplomatic favor that way. And when we average those out, she gets a total diplomatic victory capacity of 7.3. Now for domination victory. First up is combat bonuses. Here I'm going to give Lady True a 9. Her combat bonuses are very good, and they are excellent in her own land. The problem is obviously if the enemy is chopping a lot of their forests. There is a chance that you don't have a lot of good tiles to land on. So it's not perfect, but I'll give her a 9 here. Next up is unit timing and relevance. This I'm talking about the ability to get the right units when and how long they can be viable. She's gonna get a 10. So for Lady True, there's the Boy Chen, which is the unique unit, which replaces a crossbowman, which is already like the perfect unit. So an upgraded crossbowman makes her very strong here, and it lasts a super long time. And its extra movement means that you can just keep going very, very fast. In terms of additional abilities for domination, she's going to get a 10 here. The drive out the aggressors bonus is so good. What's nice about it is that as you capture new territory and it becomes yours, you're going to get bonus movement and combat strength in those tiles. So what's probably smart to do is actually have some builders moving with your army and planting forests along your new forefront to help protect your newly captured cities. All in all, that averages out to a domination victory capacity of 9.7. So you'll notice that 9.7 was actually the highest. So I think that means that Lady True works out to be a very good domination civ. Now for leader versatility. This is a little bit more subjective, but I wanted to talk about the ability to change things up. So first up is the victory capacity average, the average between all of the things we just evaluated. Here, Lady True gets an 8.3. Next up is reasonable alternatives. So here I mean, is there something that could easily be switched to? Basically, if you're going for a culture victory, can you pretty easily switch up to science? And here I think she's going to get an 8. She's definitely above average in terms of being able to find the right yields to switch to something else. Next is ease of change, and here I mean the timing of when things occur. I'm going to give her a 6 here, just slightly above average, because a lot of her bonuses to certain yields come very early. So if you're going in one direction and decide to switch later, you might be a little bit caught. And if you've already, say, chopped your rainforests, you might have trouble getting science at this point because all you'll be able to plant is woods. Altogether, that makes her versatility score 7.4. Some additional thoughts on how this leader can work given certain features of the game. First is terrain. So terrain could definitely change the way you're going about victory. If you have a very densely rainforested area, you're probably looking more at a science victory. If it's more forested, maybe more towards culture. And if it's dense marshland, maybe you'll stick with domination. Next consideration is game modes. Lady True was released with the Corporations game mode, and she might work pretty well with that, but she doesn't really have any special interactions with it. I think she'll do well with any of the game modes, but I don't know that she specifically interacts with any of them in a special way. The heroes will definitely work well with her because of the combat bonus and movement bonus, but I don't think any of the other game modes really bring anything special for her or change up how you play. City-state interactions. Lady True doesn't really have anything special with city-states, but she would probably interact really well with, say, Laventa. If you find Laventa early in your game, you probably want to think about a culture victory because she's going to be able to keep so much forest and rainforest that Laventa's colossal heads are going to be very useful in her land. On to wonders, you definitely want to look at things like the BS5 with Lady True because it'll keep the appeal up of the marsh and rainforest land if you are going for a culture victory. Other civs to consider. I think Lady True is in a very good position to kind of combat any other civ that spawns. She doesn't really have to worry about any specific civ that's going to be a problem for her. Other notes. I think Lady True is just very strong, but somewhat locked to her terrain, and I'd be curious to see how a game works if you spawn dry land. That was my rating of Lady True's ability to win the different victory types. It looks like she's going to be primarily a domination civ with a very good capacity for science. So if you want to see other ratings or anything else I'm doing, I've been Dame Offensive. Go ahead and subscribe. You know how YouTube works. Goodbye.